Alrighty, welcome everyone to growcoach.com. Ken Salvail here, talking about tomatoes and pruning tomatoes and just the general care of them. We're going to show you some different varieties here and what's going on. It's an interesting thing. Tomato plants, there's sort of different varieties that you can grow. There's determinate varieties and indeterminate varieties. The determinate ones are just going to grow to a certain size and stop blooming and produce those fruits, and that's it, they're done. The indeterminate ones, they don't have a determination. They don't know where they're going. They just keep on growing and growing and growing and producing and flowering. So you tend to get much longer fruiting on those varieties. And with some of the varieties we have here, we have some Romas and we have Cosmonaut Volkov, which is an interesting one. I'll show you some of those tomatoes. But I'm going to show you some pruning because these tomatoes are getting out of hand. Like, they are growing like crazy. And so we're just gonna have a quick look here and show you what's going on. Alrighty, so we're just gonna have a close-up look here. With tomato plants, they tend to sprawl around quite a bit, and you can see these big long branches that are growing out here. And we've got look at, oh, there's a pepper under here. Poor little pepper, he's getting completely wiped out here. So, you know, the problem is this plant is way too vigorous. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to cut off this whole branch. It's causing us some issues. So I'm just taking that right out. There's a little tomato on there, but I don't really care. I just have to open this up a little bit. Now, an important factor is with the tomatoes is that when the sun shines on them, they do ripen a little faster, but you are going to get sunburn on them at some point. So I actually will leave some leaves here to protect the fruit a little bit. And you can see inside here, there's some just beautiful, beautiful tomatoes in there. This is that Cosmonaut Volkov variety. It's just amazing. These are super early too, this one. Really like it. You can see down here, and I'm going to show you some of these. This is stuff you prune off when you get branches down here with these leaves. Now what you have here is you got two issues. It's mostly flea beetle damage. So if you guys know, flea beetles get on potatoes and they can cause problems with potatoes. But these ones actually are just getting on the tomato leaves, and it's not really causing the plant too much distress. Okay, so yeah, these flea beetles are an issue, and you can see there's more damage here. They're really going a little nutty on these plants. They're really proliferating. And actually, I think I see one right in there, but hard to say. But they do cause a lot of these little round holes. It doesn't really stress the plant out that much, so I'm not too worried about it. But I don't want to see a bunch of this dead stuff under here. So what I try to do is I try to prune out some of these leaves that are down here, because it will, if they fall on the ground, they're just going to invite other insects to come in. So trying to keep your garden a little bit tidy down below here is usually a good idea. It prevents other pests from building up. So again, we're going to keep a little bit of foliage here so that these tomatoes don't get too hot in the sun. So I'm actually positioning this branch just to cast a little bit of shade here. And the other thing I was mentioning about determinate and indeterminate, this is how I know this one is indeterminate, because look at, there's just tons of new flowers coming on this thing, and they're trying to fruit. The thing that happens, here's more here, is that you got to realize that those fruits are going to have to take about maybe 60, 70 days in order to actually, you know, come through to fruition. So part of pruning, you may also snip out and remove some of that, because why is the plant putting all that energy into something that's not going to be ready until who knows when? We're still in about middle of July. We've already harvested some of these. They've already been, have already ripened, which is pretty amazing. These ones, if we at some point we have to decide if we think they're going to ripen yet. They have time to ripen. Usually, but when we get into August, we just cut off any new flowers that come on those indeterminate varieties. And that way all the energy goes into just sizing up the fruit you have. So remember, with tomatoes, you got to keep them consistently watered so that the fruit doesn't split. Sometimes what happens if they're dry and then wet and dry and wet, the cells are dividing inside the fruit. And they're dividing, but they don't have enough water to fill the cells. So you get this fruit that's sort of growing or sort of not. And then all of a sudden you water it and all those cells puff up and it causes the skin to split. And then so much for that fruit. So these varieties are really great. This is the first time we've tried growing this particular one, but wow, I'm really impressed by the production. Like seriously, like these are incredible, incredible tomatoes. But they're pretty aggressive. Over here, these you can see the Romas over here. These ones are also pretty aggressive, so we have to get in here and trim them out quite a bit. But you can definitely see those beautiful clusters of Romas, and we want to make sure that we get some foliage that covers these ones up a bit, so just so that they don't get fried in the sun. You'll sometimes get the tomatoes get overheated sometimes, so I definitely I don't know about this year, but each year it just seems like it gets hotter and drier every year. So I'm looking at actually developing some shade cloths that I can use to put over the vegetables in the summertime, just in the heat of the day. So you know, I actually would just put it on the south side. The east side is fine. The sun comes up and shines on the plants. That's good in the morning, but it's that afternoon heat that just about zaps them. You know, it's just too much for them. So I want to get a little bit of shade cloth set up at some point, and you'll see videos on that, I'm sure, in the near future. All right, so thanks very much for tuning in, and always subscribe if you can, and click the like button. It's always great. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.